Okay, this is the starting position of the Nimzo-Indian defense. Now you see that e3 has been played. So we're going to look at some ideas behind Black's play in the center. Now, basically, Black's pawn play for center control is going to be dynamic. So remember that Black's play in the Nimzo-Indian defense is going to be dynamic. So Black is always looking for tactics. Now take a look at the pawns on c7, d7, and e6. The bishop on b4 will capture the knight on c3, and by the dark square bishop being absent from the board, then the pawns are going to take on the role of occupying dark squares. c5 will be played first, followed by e5 and d6. Now notice that c5 has already been played, so now the knight is developed. And the knight now guards e5, d4, b4, and a5. This knight will be developed to the g3 square, where it will control e4. Okay, Black gains tempo. Now, while Black plans to play the bishop to a6 to capture the pawn on c4, at the same time, White is going to play the knight to g3 and attack e4. In between move. Now, the idea behind this move is to exploit the absence of Black's dark square bishop. So if g3 is played, then White can just simply play queen to h6. Now, you see that bishop a3 has been played, and White plans to capture that pawn. But at the same time, Black plans to push the d pawn as far as he can down the board. Tempo on the bishop, tempo on the rook. Okay, that is a threat. And Black is a piece up. All right, Nimzo Nimzo-Indian. Black's plan is simple. Restrain White's bishop on the diagonal by playing not d7 to d6, but playing the d pawn to d5. And Black will follow up with an attack on White's queen side. Rook and pawn endgame. This is the classical variation of the Nimzo-Indian defense. Queen c2. Now, when White plays this move, probably Black's best move would be to play the knight to c6 to gain tempo on the d4 pawn. The pawn is at the moment undefended, so Black takes advantage of this fact. Now the pawn on d4 is under attack. Okay. Also, another thing that you need to know about the classical variation is that Black will need to know how to maneuver his knights behind the ranks. We're going to see the knight being deployed to e8. We're going to see the knight going from the king's side to the queen's side and back to the king's side. So let us begin. Okay, this gains tempo. After the knight retreats to d2, Black will play his knight from c6 to e5, eyeing the c4 pawn. And also from e5, the knight will be transferred to d3. Now there are 4 pieces controlling the d3 square. Bishop f5, the pawn on e4, the knight on e5, and the rook on d8. All control d3 from a distance. Notice how active Black's knight is. All the way from d8, c6, e5, d3, and now the knight is on c5 after recapturing the pawn. Now this bishop will retreat. The bishop that is on f5 will be redirected to the a8 to h1 diagonal, and from there the bishop will protect or help guard the e4 pawn. So the pawn is now defended by 3 pieces, the knight on f6, queen e7, and bishop c6. Now, if you look at the arrows, this indicates Black's typical plan of moving the knight to key squares in a position. So the knight will be transferred to the queen side momentarily. First move is defend the g7 pawn. And after the bishop retreats, Black can relieve the knight of its defensive duty of the pawn on g7. And now the knight will move from b7 to d6. And from there we'll go to the f7 square in order to get to e5.